Hey everybody, PatBenage here, the evolution coach, creator of the 6-week shift, and author of this inspirational blog, SoulTalk. And this is my New Year's SoulTalk. Doing it on New Year's Eve. It'll be out to everybody on New Year's Day, so it's kind of the last of 2016 and the first of 2017. And I want to talk about today something that I just touched on real briefly last time, and that has to do with New Year's resolutions. It has to do with setting intention for the coming year, this time of transition. You know, we've talked about over the last few weeks beliefs and truth and just about loving yourself and all of this stuff that's centered around, really, my view, it's centered around who you are and how you are going to live that truth. And one of the things that I've found is that, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this if you've done any New Year's resolutions, is that New Year's resolutions, most of the time, fail. And the question is why? You know, why is that? Why is it that when we resolve to make a change in our life, that change doesn't manifest? You know, we end up being motivated maybe for a little while, and then we get back into the routine of life, and it just doesn't happen. You know, whatever that resolution happens to be. And one of the things that one of the conclusions I guess I've come to around that is that most of the time those resolutions are focused on changing something we don't like about our life, about how we live, who we are, about, you know, the circumstances of our life, whether that's, you know, we think we need to be more productive at this, or we need to spend more time at this. It's all, or if we need to lose weight, or, you know, get in shape, or whatever it happens to be, there's an underlying thought, a sponsoring thought of that says, I'm not that. It was interesting, you know, I was in the group that meets weekly, and I get there occasionally, but one of the things they were talking about was worthiness, or I'm not enough kind of thing. And so that's kind of the attitude that we take a lot of times. And it's very deeply ingrained in some of us that we're either unworthy or we're not enough somehow. And so we're always looking to fix ourselves or improve ourselves or get better. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I see is the difficulty in that is that it's a focus on what we don't want. And whatever, as I've mentioned many, many times, whatever we give our attention to, whatever we focus on, that's what we get more of. Whether that's saying yes to it or saying no to it. It's giving energy to it, and it grows it. And when we resolve to change something that we don't like, we're actually dividing our energies. We're actually dividing those energies into a focus on what we don't want and a focus on what we do want. And so it creates more of a challenge in doing that. It's kind of like the old Native American saying that I'm sure you've seen, talks about, you know, there's two wolves, you know, and you have one that's fear and one that's love or support or whatever it is. And whichever one you feed is the one that wins, the one that takes over. So if you feed the fear, or you feed the love, whichever one you feed the most is going to win. And so you're striving to balance out and to feed the positive more than the negative, but it's a struggle. It's a struggle because there's energy going to both. And so it becomes this battle, an inner battle to change. And my suggestion is to do things a little differently. If you have the desire to make change in your life, create that change by focusing on what you love about yourself. Focus on those positive aspects that you want to bring out more. And it's still kind of a subtle thing here that you have to kind of walk this fine line, but if you focus on what your desire is as opposed to what you don't want, then that grows. And what I've found happens over time is that as you do that, it sort of, as it grows and it expands, those things that you've stopped giving attention to, that you've stopped focusing on, that you've stopped resisting, they simply fade away. They're not useful to you anymore. They're not part of your view of who you are anymore. And so they fade away. They fade away. And so my suggestion is, if you're interested in creating change in your life, to focus on things that are positives for you and cause them to grow. And as I was thinking about that, it brought up a different subject for me. And so I'm kind of giving a couple of different things in this particular Soul Talk, but it also is part of what I've been talking about the last few weeks, and beliefs. And one of the things that came to me this morning was the idea that, and I've got some friends of mine who struggle with beliefs because, one of the things I've talked about many times, is that my beliefs change, my beliefs evolve, and even when my beliefs are in seeming conflict with somebody else's beliefs, that doesn't make theirs wrong and mine right. It also doesn't make theirs right and mine wrong. There's room for both. There's room for both. And so a lot of people that intellectually get that have difficulty in trying to balance those two things. They have difficulty in balancing what I believe with what somebody else's belief, and my allowing them to believe that, and giving them the benefit of the doubt as to whether that's true or not, because it's different from mine. My tendency as a human, the mind's tendency, is to say what I believe is right. So if that's in conflict, or it appears to be in conflict, then it must be wrong. And what's happened there is we've become attached to our belief. And so there's so many things in life that tell you to become detached, and that attachment is not good, and so we become detached, and we start to think, well, maybe none of my beliefs are valid. But what happens there is then you sort of lose direction. And the truth is that we always have some belief about ourselves, about life, about, even if we try to deny that, even, it's not a good thing. And so my other thought is that one of the things that you might consider as a New Year's resolution is to believe with all your heart. Whatever it is that you believe it with all your heart. Live it to the fullest. Don't shy away because you think, well, what I believe is incomplete. What I believe is not, it's not maybe absolute truth. Believe it with all your heart. Live it. Live that belief. Be an expression of that belief. And allow it to evolve. Allow it to evolve. So you have to believe with all your heart, but you also have to stay open. Which, another thought came to me this morning. Somewhere in Jesus's teachings, he said something to the effect of be as a child. And so I got to thinking, believe like a child, believe that fully. And watch how your life will just blossom. If you just live what you believe with all your heart, as fully as you can, life can't help but blossom. But again, the key to doing that in such a way that allows that blossoming and that allows that evolution is to not be attached to what you believe. In other words, don't hold it too tightly. Embrace it, but don't hold it so tightly that you can't allow for something else. That you can't allow for something different. So you have to believe with this openness to more. But it's my suggestion, my thought on this is that if you attempt to just be open and let go of beliefs, that ultimately you stagnate because you don't have any direction. You're in a state of pure experience with no intention. With no evolution and growth. I mean, you can't totally flatline, but it just slows it down to a point that it can be as if your life is going nowhere. And so in this year of 2017, and if you pay attention to, and of course, the thing is, 2017 is just a number. We just arbitrarily came up with, a year when we started counting. And the Chinese have a different year, and the Jewish have a different year. And so there's all differences there, but we live in this culture, and we do see it as the year 2016 and then 2017. 2016 is a number 9 year. 2017 is a 10, which is actually a 1. So it's the 9 represents kind of an ending to a cycle, and the 1 is the beginning. So approach this 2017 as a new beginning. And I do that every moment, but still it's beneficial to utilize whatever energies are around you to, again, supply a little bit of momentum to whatever it is that you're desiring to express. and to become. And so, a little bit to think about, a little bit to contemplate and look at for the coming year. But just like I say, I'm going to strive to believe with all my heart and to move forward in that way, and to allow that to openly unfold and expand and evolve. And I offer that as a possibility for you in this coming year. And I wish you a wonderful 2017, and know that this day and this year will be filled with love, and it's my job and it's your job to recognize that and embrace that. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and looking forward to every little transition and every little revolution of life as we've moved around our sun, and it's a beautiful time. And looking out, I've got the mountains out here. I know you can't see it, but I'm looking out at the mountains. It's a clear day, lots of snow on them, and just have a wonderful, wonderful, safe holiday and New Year, and we'll see you next year.